Welcome to Quimbee CLE course on customs law. I'm your presenter, Myron Barlow.
And I'm Don Luther.
And today we're going to cover the basics of customs law for you. We'll begin with customs law and procedure, starting with the import-entry process, moving through classification, origin, and free trade agreements. And then we'll go on to reviewing some legal representations and remedies available, including within matters that concern customs penalties, as well as judicial review.
Starting with global business. Where you might think of a business as being a domestic business traditionally, a lot of domestic businesses over the past few decades have become global businesses. A lot of materials, parts, components, intellectual property may come from other countries, and these things can make a domestic business to be an international business even if they're not aware of it. And compliance failures can lead to a lot of delays and problems, which are listed here. For those of you who have taken a trip abroad, when you come back either through a land border port or an airport, you've probably encountered a customs or immigration officer asking you these types of questions. Who are you? What's your citizenship? Where have you been? How long? What are you bringing back? It's much the same when you import commercial merchandise. Customs needs to know the identity of the parties involved, the buyer and the seller, information on the merchandise, the description and tariff classification, which Myron will cover for you later, the value of the merchandise, the quantities, the country of origin, and any other information that's necessary to enforce a variety of regulations. And of course, they want their money, the duty payment. This is done by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. This agency is one of the oldest in America. It was the U.S. Customs Service in 1789. Actually, I think it was the Bureau of Customs along the way, but it has existed since then. In 2003, it got renamed to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection under the Homeland Security Department, which was created that year. CBP is one of Homeland Security's biggest and most complex components. Their missions include keeping terrorists and weapons and terrorist threats out of the U.S., securing and facilitating trade and travel, and enforcing every regulation there is on imports and exports, immigration and drug laws. They are the primary face that you see at the border, and they enforce laws and collect information on behalf of all kinds of other agencies. Increasingly, these past several years, they're involved with humanitarian issues such as forced labor, contact minerals, and environmental concerns. At CBP, there are ports of entry, and there are 301, I believe, ports of entry, and these range from large commercial ports such as Los Angeles and New York to small border crossings in the middle of North Dakota where there's just an officer in a little building to clear people crossing, from Canada into the U.S. But at the commercial ports, you'll have CBP officers. These used to be called inspectors. They target and examine. They do physical examination of the cargo, opening the box and seeing what's in it. There are also import specialists who review the documentation for shipments and determine the correctness of tariff classification, valuation, and administer the duty rates that are applicable to merchandise, and also the admissibility requirements. Entry specialists do the fiscal and financial reporting requirements for customs. There are also fines, penalties, and forfeitures officers who do exactly what their name implies, and do bad things to importers who have made mistakes. The traditional structure at customs was the service port, such as Baltimore or Seattle, Tacoma, or Miami. And at each of these ports, you would have a full range of experts on each type of transaction for commercial purposes. So if you imported auto parts into Baltimore or Miami, you would have an automotive team. At each of those places, you would also have a textile and apparel team, a chemical team, etc. Over the past decade or so, Customs and Border Protection has tried to migrate to a centers of excellence and expertise approach where they have a center for each major industry. So there's a center for chemicals and pharmaceuticals. There's a center for automotive and aerospace, things like that. So they're trying to consolidate their expertise into a smaller number of fewer things so they can take a more holistic approach at looking at these transactions and have more expertise in looking in depth at these industries. Customs and Border Protection also has auditors, much like the IRS has auditors. They also have criminal investigators and special agents who do those side of things. Basically like the same kind of thing as an FBI agent, but they work for Homeland Security and Customs and Border Protection. At Customs headquarters, they have field operations people who provide technical and policy guidance to the field. And they also have an Office of Regulations and Rulings, which do what their name implies. Also within CBP, they have laboratory and scientific services. They have scientists who, in addition to testing contraband to see if it's really drugs, they can also confirm technical aspects of merchandise. So if you're importing a waterproof jacket, they have the means to test it to make sure it actually qualifies as a waterproof jacket.